please?
Dwayne Pyeatte.
Dwayne, what is your date of birth and the town you were born in?
11/10/39. I was born in Prairie Grove at Elizabeth Hospital, but we was living in Cane Hill at the time, where I've always lived.
Now, this interview is by Scott Davis, and the project is for the Cane Hill Oral History Project, right? And we're going to use this video for educational purposes, and we want to be sure that you understand that and that we have your permission.
Oh, sure.
Who are your parents?
Clay and Lillian Pyeatte.
Tell me about your parents.
Well, Daddy was born here in Cane Hill. Mother was born to Clyde.
Tell me about your earliest memories of Cane Hill.
Oh, I remember living, we was living over where Scott Davis did live, across the creek. I remember the creek getting up and washing the footbridge across and around, and we couldn't get out unless you waded the creek. Then about the time I started the school, we moved over there below the cemetery where I live now.
Did you have any siblings? Tell me about your family.
No, I was the only child.
Only child. What year did you attend school in Cane Hill?
I started in '45. When I started the school, they had 12 grades. Then by the time I was in the 4th or 5th grade, they consolidated with Lincoln, and they only had 6 grades. I went to 6 grades at Lincoln, and then I went to, at Cane Hill, and then I went to Lincoln for the last 6.
What was it like going to school in Cane Hill? Tell us about what you remember.
Well, I remember when I first started, the lunchroom was over there where John Mitchell lives now, and we didn't think it was a couple of 100 yards up over there, and we didn't think nothing about walking over there to eat.
Tell me about your classmates and your friends at Cane Hill and in school that you remember.
Well, everybody was just local, and we was all poor, but the government forgot to tell us, and so, we was all the same boat. And people were a lot closer back then. You shared with everybody. And I still got some of the same friends.
Tell us about some of them.
Well, my son married my best friend's Dennis DePere, married his daughter. Then old Joe Stickler, remember him? Jack Stam, he passed away a couple of years ago. Ronnie Spencer.
What do you remember about, what was it like back in the old days in Cane Hill when you were a kid?
Well, the church was the main gathering place, and then the general store was the next general.
What did y'all do at the store? Tell me about what you would do when you would come down. I know you would buy stuff, but what else would you do?
Well, there was always several people around, it was always men, and Daddy would loaf a little bit, like 30 minutes was a long time for him to loaf. And they'd tell stories and plan on things, and
in those days, were you more likely to talk to somebody and visit, or call them on the phone to visit in person? Would you more likely visit in person or do it by phone?
Usually on person, because the phone, it was a wall phone, and the men was always out Well, the women, I guess, talked on the phone more. Mom never talked very much, but the women talked on the phone more because the men was always out working, and you didn't have a cell phone, and you didn't talk to people like you like you do now. I guess you did all your business as you got come to it.
Tell me about your family life when you were a kid. You said you were the only child. Tell me a little bit about what your family life was like and your grandparents and stuff. What did y'all do?
Well, just a regular, general.
What were some of your routines when you were a kid?
I was.
Your routines? What did you do?
Well, we played baseball or football or throwed rocks at a wasp nest or what.
Tell me about the stores that you used to visit in Cane Hill when you would come down with your dad. You talked about that earlier. Which stores were they and who ran them?
Well, Shaker Yates. We always went to Shaker Yates' store. That was at that time that was the only store in town was Shaker's store, and the store and the post office. And everything was all together. He sold groceries and feed.
Tell me about your dad's business. What was his trade?
He was a plumber, but he farmed too. I mean, he milked cows. We had cows, chickens. I mean, small amount of chickens. 25 or 30 laying hens. And we milked 5 or 6 cows most of the time.
What was your part in all this farm work?
Well, I always fed the chickens. That was one of my chores, and I'd help Daddy milk, or feed hay to the cows. And back then, kids worked right along with their fathers. They didn't. They didn't sit in the house and play on the computer.
What did the kids do for fun when you were a kid?
Well, like I say, I always.
If you were with a friend for a day, or if you were out doing something, had some off time, what might be something you would have done back then for fun or entertainment?
Well, if we had a bicycle, and I had a bicycle pretty young, we'd go down to the store, and if we had any money, we'd get something to drink, and just ride around or something.
What do you remember about the mill? Do you remember the structure or the operations of it? Tell me.
I don't remember it ever in operation. I faintly remember the building standing there. I don't remember whether they tore it down, it fell down. I don't know what happened.
Earlier I asked you about what you did for fun as a kid. What did the adults do for fun back in the old days in Cane Hill?
Seemed like they sat around and talked a lot. And they played some rook, and that rook was a big game.
Where would you play it?
What?
Where would you play?
Usually it's some at the neighbors, or at one time they had rook parties at the college building, the school.
When would that have been? What years?
Oh, I was just a big kid. I wasn't big enough to play.
Tell me about some of your neighbors and friends in Cane Hill that you knew over the years, a few of them.
Well, there wasn't hardly any kids lived right here in town.
Well, as an adult, who are some of your neighbors and friends that you've got to?
Well, there was a Ms. Cunningham that used to live down on the corner on the right. Her and Mom was good friends. I don't seem like Daddy was always working, and if I was at home with Mom, we always had things to do. I always helped Mom quite a bit, you know.
What about your routines on a Sunday? What were some of the things you would have done? A typical Sunday at your family.
Well, of course, you always had chores. You did chores 7 days a week. Daddy would, after we got the chores done, Daddy would always usually kill a fryer chicken and dress it. We'd have it for Sunday dinner. Daddy would always lay down and take a nap after dinner. Then we'd go down and spend about an hour with one set of grandparents, and then come back and spend about an hour with the other set of grandparents, and come home, and by that time it was time to start chores again.
Did you have any house chores within your house that you had to do? Or was everything on the farm, your chores?
Mostly it was all outside.
Was that typical for kids in your day?
Yes. Usually the boys worked outside and helped their parents, their dads, and the girls stayed in and helped their moms.
Let's talk about your role in helping. Once the schools shut down and the college building was left, what was done with the community to preserve that old building, and what was your role in helping in that?
Well, it said nothing was done to it for several years, and then the community finally got interested a little bit in it, and we started trying to preserve it. And of course, there was no money to be very little money to be put in it, and we just tried to preserve it. And we got a grant that helped us a little bit along, but then we started having the festival to try to raise money, and we raised a little money, but not enough to do any major work on it. We just barely keeping up with it. And then Tim come along, and that was a blessing.
Right. Tell about your role in the restoration project that's going on now.
Well, it just,
Advisory board. Aren't you on the advisory board?
I'm on the advisory board, and we're just make suggestions that we'd like to see done, and Bobby's working great with us. He does, you know, he's an A1 guy.
So how would you characterize the work they've done on the historical properties here in Cane Hill? Cane Hill.
Fantastic. I mean, everything looks so much better, and the college is going to look so nice when they get it done.
What would you like to see that college building used for?
I don't know. I'd like to see it. I'd like for people to see what he's done for us. I'd like to see it used for something. We have in the festival, but I'd like maybe another festival or something that show it off.
What kind of a community is Cane Hill?
I'd say it's getting to be a friendlier nicer community than it used to be. Hopefully people would begin to come together a little bit and improve the looks of Cane Hill. And I think I'm a lot prouder of Cane Hill than I used to be, and I'm hoping that it's rubbing off on some other people. The way things are looking so nice.